Hello and welcome, my dear friend. God led you here exactly when you needed to hear this. Pause for a moment and feel this. Every time you look in the mirror and allow yourself to exist fully, exactly as you are performing an act of worship. Not a worship of perfection, not a worship of achievement, but a worship of the one who made you, uniquely, perfectly, wondrously. You are a living masterpiece, a composition of divine thought, a proof of God's creativity. And when you love yourself as you are, you honor that creation. You validate the majesty of your Maker. Think of it like a painter stepping back from a canvas. The colors, the brushstrokes, the tiniest imperfections, they all matter. If the painter's work is ignored, the masterpiece goes uncelebrated. But when someone stands before it, appreciates it, notices its details, the painting comes alive. You are that masterpiece. Your self-love is the gaze that brings God's handiwork into full recognition. Too often, we feel the need to earn approval from others, from society, from our family, even from ourselves. Yet, here's the divine truth. You've already earned it. Every scar, every triumph, every quiet act of courage is proof that God's craftsmanship is alive within you. Loving yourself doesn't inflate ego. It reflects back the care, wisdom, and beauty God embedded in you from the very beginning. Imagine a garden. Each flower blooms according to its own time, its own design. You wouldn't shame a rose for not growing like a sunflower, or a tulip for not blossoming in winter. Each bloom is already a miracle. Your existence is the same. To truly love yourself is to say, God, your design is perfect. I see it, I honor it, I celebrate it. It's an act of worship, quiet but powerful, reverent yet unshakably joyful. And yet, loving yourself in this way is not always easy. Doubt creeps in, that whisper that says, "Are you really enough?" And it masks the truth. But doubt is only a shadow. Shadows only exist because there is light. And the light, my dear friend, is the divine love poured into your being. That love is present whether you acknowledge it or not. And when you choose to love yourself, you are reflecting that light back to God, affirming the truth that His creation, you, is magnificent. Consider this. God does not need your validation, but the act of recognizing your worth, of embracing your soul, of honoring the divine spark within you, that is a language that reaches God's heart. It's a mirror of worship. It's the quiet, radical acknowledgement that His work matters, that His artistry is visible, that His design is worthy of celebration. And here's the beauty of it. When you truly love yourself, the world begins to recognize it too. Your confidence isn't vanity, it's authenticity. Your joy isn't arrogance, it's resonance with the divine. Every act of self-love sends a ripple through creation. You become a living testimony that God's creativity cannot be contained, that His vision is perfect, that His work in you is not accidental, not incomplete, but whole. Others are inspired when they see you recognize your own light. By simply existing in that truth, you encourage them to embrace the light within themselves. So, if you've been holding back, doubting yourself, comparing yourself, or trying to fit into a frame that was never meant for you, pause, breathe. Let this truth sink deep. To love yourself as you are is to worship God in the most personal, profound way imaginable. Every time you honor your being, you honor Him. Every time you embrace your journey, you embrace His design. Every time you celebrate your strengths and forgive your flaws, you are validating the majesty of the Creator. This is not selfishness. This is sacredness. This is divine alignment. You are not just becoming more of yourself, you are becoming a conduit of God's beauty, a living testament that His creation, in all its wonder, complexity, and uniqueness, is worth celebrating. My dear friend, when you begin to love yourself as God intended, something shifts not only in your heart, but in the spiritual atmosphere around you. The way you carry yourself changes. The way you walk into a room changes. Even your silence begins to speak, because it carries the authority of someone who knows they are fearfully and wonderfully made. The enemy of your soul has always tried to distort this truth. That's why comparison, shame, and insecurity are some of the most common weapons used against you. Because if you forget your worth, you forget God's signature in your life. And when you forget His signature, you begin to chase after the approval of hands that never created you. But listen closely. The crown God placed on you was never meant to be handed out for votes. You do not need confirmation slips from broken people to validate what was already signed by the Creator Himself. Think of it like a musician playing a piece of music composed by the greatest maestro. Even if the crowd doesn't applaud, the song still carries the brilliance of its composer. You are that song. Your worth doesn't rise and fall with the clapping of others. It rests in the unshakable truth of who composed you. And here's where it becomes sacred. When you begin to honor yourself, you unconsciously give others permission to do the same. Your very existence becomes a sermon without words. A friend who has forgotten their beauty suddenly remembers it when they see how you carry yours. A soul who feels like a mistake begins to wonder if maybe, just maybe, they were designed on purpose too. This is why self-love is not just about you. It is about the ripples that reach beyond your life. It is about participating in God's redemptive work by living as an example of His creativity at its fullest. You don't inspire others by denying who you are. You inspire them by embracing it fully, unapologetically, tenderly. Picture a lantern lit in the middle of a dark field. The lantern doesn't force itself on anyone. It doesn't beg people to come closer. It simply shines, and in its shining, weary travelers find direction. That's you when you choose to embrace yourself as God's creation. You become a guiding light without trying, simply by being. But here's the challenge. The world will sometimes misinterpret your light. People who have not learned to love themselves may see your confidence as arrogance. They may even resent the joy you've cultivated. But their perception does not alter your truth. The sun doesn't dim itself because someone complains about the brightness. It rises anyway, and so must you. Now think of the times you've dismissed your own reflection, the times you've called yourself not enough, the times you've questioned your value. What if every one of those moments was like standing before a stained glass window and only focusing on a crack in the corner? The beauty was never gone. The light still poured through. The crack didn't erase the design. It added to the story of resilience. That's what your so-called flaws are. Not disqualifications, but evidence of a life that has endured, survived, and still reflects God's glory. Your scars are not shameful. They are sacred signatures of endurance. Heaven sees them as proof of what you've walked through, and angels marvel at the light that still radiates through them. You cannot love God fully while despising what He has carried you through. To love yourself is to say, Lord, I thank you for making even my scars meaningful. And as this truth sinks deeper, you realize something profound. Self-love turns into fuel for divine purpose. When you stop battling yourself, you free up energy to fight for the dreams God placed in you. When you stop doubting your reflection, you have more strength to step into your calling. Loving yourself is not the end. It is the beginning of walking in your destiny with boldness. Because God did not create you to live life half asleep. He did not breathe His Spirit into you just for you to survive. He intended for you to flourish, to create, to love, to heal, to impact lives. And all of that begins with seeing yourself the way He sees you. So hear me. There is no distance left to travel before you become worthy. You are worthy in this moment. There is no permission slip you need to receive before you can embrace yourself. God already handed you the permission when He spoke you into existence. And the moment you live from that truth, everything changes. Fear loosens its grip. Shame loses its voice. Doubt becomes background noise instead of the narrator of your story. Because the God who called galaxies into being also called you, and His voice is final. My dear friend, The love you extend to yourself today is not wasted. It is not small. It is not indulgent. It is an echo of heaven itself. It is a living hallelujah, a declaration that the Creator's work was good, that His masterpiece is still unfolding, that His glory is reflected in every breath you take. So stand tall, not in arrogance, but in reverence, not because you are flawless, but because you are faithfully made. Lift your head, not to prove a point, but to show the world what it looks like when someone dares to love themselves as an act of loving God. Because that's what you are doing every time you look at yourself with compassion, every time you choose to forgive your reflection instead of condemning it, every time you say yes to life instead of hiding in shame. You are worshiping, you are participating in heaven's symphony. And perhaps the most powerful truth of all is this: one day you will stand face to face with the author of your being. And in that moment, I believe He will look at you with love and say, "Thank you for honoring what I created. Thank you for loving yourself enough to reflect my glory back to me." That, my friend, is the highest act of worship. When a word like this lands, your spirit wants to stay in the presence of it. That's why I made Simplified Serenity, a channel with music I've created for prayer, meditation, and deep rest. The link's in the description. I'd love to see you there.